when I was back in the States. I was like, well, that claim, they certainly lived up to that, because this is the exact same Mass that, is back in the States. Like all the books I had read back there, this is what they're doing in England too. That's pretty neat. And with an English accent. I like accents. So next thing you know, Mass is over, and I'm like, okay, can we go back? I want to see that show again. You know how they mentioned that funeral Mass tomorrow? Pretty, please go, please go. She's like, we don't know that man. I was like, that's okay, it's a Mass, it's not a public thing. What are they going to do, kick us out? She's like, okay. So next thing you know, I'm dragging her along, let's go to this funeral Mass. And then we go to the funeral Mass, and I hear about this wedding Mass. We completely, went in on this one couple's wedding Mass. We were just there because it was a Mass, So I was in love with the Mass. Any opportunity we could get to go to Mass, we're going a couple of times a day now. And I was just loving it, loving the show. And so then it turns out that we're getting ready to leave to go back to the States. The exchange program is almost over. We have about 3 days, and we have the opportunity to go to Paris. It's like, oh, Paris is a Catholic country. This is going to be great. So I go to the library to do some research. I found this book that had all these different churches in Paris, and I strategically map out on this little map all the different churches in Paris, on the streets and corners of Paris. I kind of mark them with a little X, and next thing you know, I have this list of like 19 different churches where I want to go and visit. So I bring it to her, I'm like, okay, we need to go here. When we get to Paris, this is what we need to do. So we get off, we're in Paris, and we go to see the tower, the Eiffel Tower, and then after that, pretty much all we did was visit these different Catholic churches. And so there's the last church on my list, church number 19, and it's the Shrine of the Miraculous Medal. And you might not know about that, and at the time, I didn't know about it. It was just one more church on my list. But it is where, in 1830, Our Lady appeared to St. Catherine Labouré, who was a little postulant with this religious community, and she had her inscribe a little medal that says, "O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee." So anyway, that's just a side note. But there was this one more church, and we got off, and we were looking for all these different churches. We found, well, let's go to this church, let's go to this church, let's go to this church, let's go. Oh, this one's not on my list, but it's so close. Come on, please go, please go. So we were going around to all these different churches, and the last church on the list, church number 19, couldn't find it. We're about to leave. It's the third day, we still haven't found it. Finally, like, please, we can't go until we find it. So we get off on the stop. It says Rue de Bac. It's supposed to be here. And we can't find it, we can't find it. But then I see out the corner of my eye this little blue nun. She's about this big, completely dressed in blue, blue veil, everything. It's like, oh, surely she knows. If anyone knows, this little blue nun has to know what this church is. But I'm not confident enough in my French, so I wasn't going to dare speak to her. I said, let's just follow her. Let's follow her. So next thing you know, we're tiptoeing behind her. We're going really slowly, but then she starts walking faster. So we're like following her in and out all these different little nooks and alleys in Paris. And sure enough, we get to this like big arch, and we go inside, and there it is, the Shrine of the Miraculous Medal. So we walk in, and it's just one more church. But then all of a sudden, this chaperone lady that I've been dragging around to different churches, she's like, "I feel Mary's presence. I need to pray the Rosary." I looked at her, I'm like, "You what?" Because I had like no relationship with the Blessed Mother. All I knew was that Catholics believed she was Jesus' mother. But other than that, I didn't really want much to do with her. I didn't know much about her. She's like, "I just need to pray a Rosary. Why don't you just kneel here and pray the Rosary while I pray mine?" I was like, "But I don't know how to pray the Rosary." She's like, "I gave you that Rosary. Just say Our Fathers and Hail Mary." I don't know the Our Father and the Hail Mary. She's like, "Just sit there." It's like, fine. So I'm sitting there waiting, and then all of a sudden, these Catholics start trickling in on either side. I'm like, oh, must be time for the show. This would be great. We made it just in time. So all the Catholics start trickling in, and lots of Catholics come. It's like, this is going to be a full house tonight. Must be a really good show here. All the Catholics fill up the whole church. We're in the very back row. And we're already sort of on, there's these long benches, and we're on the end. And here's the chaperone lady, and here's me. I'm already feeling like I'm half falling off. And then this French lady comes in and squeezes on this side. So the next thing you know, I'm sitting like this. There's no space bubble at all. I was completely squished. And Mass begins, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is the most beautiful Mass, because it's a feast of St. Peter and Paul. They've got like 12 priests on the altar, and they've got smells and bells, and it's just like, this is a great show. And the French lady, I've seen the universality again, and she's helping me follow along with the Mass in French. And she's like, this is great, this is great. And all the Catholics go up to receive Holy Communion. All the Catholics come back and kneel down and make their thanksgiving. And up to this point, every single time I had been to a Catholic Mass, I would just sort of sit there politely in the pew, waiting for the end of the show, do the last part of the choreography, and move on to another show. But this time, that didn't happen. This French lady who was sitting right down next to me, she looks over at me when she's supposed to be piously making her thanksgiving, and she looks over at me and she says, or she does this in her look, she doesn't say it, she says, "You should be kneeling." And I look back at her and give her this look that says, I don't need to kneel, I'm not Catholic, I haven't received God. And she gives me this look back like, "You're kneeling." And I give her a look back like, "No, I'm not." And next thing you know, she grabs me then she yanks me down to my knees, and she was smiling, so I knew she meant well.